I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet and remind everybody, put those auto downloads on. It's greatly helpful for us. And don't forgive us a 5-star review. I know it's confusing, but so is life. So there's this story that came out. Obviously, many people are familiar with it. Some aren't, because these are the stories that tend to get buried, especially when there's so much news like there was yesterday, which we'll get into. But one of them was this tractor trailer driver who made a U-turn in Florida, killing 3 people. He literally made a U-turn on a major interstate, and he was denied a work visa by the Trump administration, but granted one with the Biden administration. And yesterday we were talking about just the simplicity of the messaging of criminality that the right really needs to own. Common sense. This is such one of those things, Golan, that if you are on the side of legal, this story should just make your blood curdle, because how many of these cases between women getting raped and beaten or men getting beat do we need to see before we say it's enough?
The excuse that, oh, well, other people that are legal or are citizens are also hurting people, are also committing crimes, doesn't quite hold water, because the question is how many people's lives would be saved or how many crimes would be stopped if these people who are here illegally weren't committing those crimes. So I don't buy the double standard. I hate this phrase because it's usually used incorrectly, but it really is whataboutism in the worst way. In this particular case, we have talked about now over the last week or so a number of different examples of how there are states that follow the laws and there are states that call themselves sanctuary states that don't. And they benefit in all sorts of ways by doing that, whether it's by packing their state full of illegals and that helping them with the census, which helps them with money, which helps them with representation, or a number of other things. And this is yet another example of this. California has what's called sanctuary licensing laws, which means you can get a driver's license if you are an illegal alien in California, which is already crazy. In this particular case, the guy who was driving this truck was on a CDL, a license that specifically was a commercial driver's license, which you cannot get even under sanctuary licensing laws. And somehow he just slipped through the cracks, because when you are flouting the laws, when you are saying, I am going to bend certain laws and break other laws as a state, of course these things are going to fall through the cracks, because there isn't just we're just going to obey the rules. And I have heard now, since this thing happened, since these people died, these Americans died as a result of this illegal U-turn on the Florida Turnpike, this reckless endeavor, I have heard people blame Trump and say, oh, this happened under Trump. But it turns out, of course, that a lot of the media is lying about this. Shockety shocker for all of us. And Trump's DHS has said the permit was actually denied under Trump and later approved by Biden. So, no, it's ridiculous to try and blame Trump for this. And this is the same thing. When you are approving under federal statutes as if they're sanctuary country, and certainly under California sanctuary state laws, these things are going to happen. Everything gets messy and people get hurt or killed.
Well said. And man, I am very glad you brought this story to me, because, again, to Golan's point, of course Americans commit crimes. We just don't want to bring extra people in to commit crimes. We have enough crimes to deal with our own citizens. And this argument is one of the dumbest arguments one could possibly have. One is too many. One crime committed by an illegal alien is too many. I'm tired of the word they're using now, the migrants or whatever word. It's like every 10 years we change what they're called. Eventually, they're going to be called country insecure. I mean, at what point does it stop, man? But I thank you very much for bringing this to the table.
Yeah, it's funny that the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, tried to blame it on Trump, saying that Trump let him in the country, when that is a factual lie. He came in under Biden.
And the media, by the way, amplified that without fact checking, which they've done time and time again, as we know.
Of course. California gave this guy that CDL, the commercial driver's license. It's a license to drive a big rig. The guy obviously did not know what he was doing, because you can't make an illegal U-turn on an interstate. Basically, what he did was he went into the right-hand lane and then he swung left with his entire tractor trailer covering the highway, and traffic came and couldn't stop and plowed into the back of his truck, going underneath, decapitating everybody in the van. It was a minivan that went through there. And you see this bozo just looking in his mirror, watching it happen. So the whole thing's on video. New York Post has the video up on their website. It's tragic, but it's also predictable. These things, you let people come in, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how to drive, they can't even speak English, and then you just putting them out on your roads. What do you think is going to happen?
It's predictable and it's 100% preventable. That's the thing that I want to emphasize.
Exactly.
Because if someone here illegally commits a crime, the person should not have been here to begin with.
Exactly. And when they bring up the statistics of aliens or migrants or people that have come to this country, their crime rate versus native citizens, they commingle legal migrants, people who came here legally, and the illegal migrants. And they say, look, migrants don't commit crimes at a higher rate than Americans, blah, blah, blah. It's all, they always skew the facts. It's all bullshit. And let me just say one thing. If you have a DUI, if you're an American citizen and you have a drunk driving ticket on your license, you're inadmissible to Canada. Canadians will not let you in. And that should be implemented here as well. I mean, why are we allowing in criminals and they jump the line and they get all the free benefits? The entire system made no sense under the previous administration. It's blatantly obvious to anyone with eyeballs that you could see that this is just unsustainable. You can't run a country. We have open borders and illegal migrants and criminals just flooding across. And this is the result of it.
I didn't know that about Canada. That
Yeah,
is
I'll tell you something.
fascinating.
Let me tell you something, Golan. This is a true story because as you know, I've shared I'm sober. So I went to Canada. I had met somebody at, let's say, a certain place here, and I was infatuated. So I went to visit this person in Vancouver, and they said, how did you meet this person? And I was like, at a convention. They're like, well, what type of convention? And I was like, I don't know, an AA convention. And they kept on questioning me. And they said to me, like, have you ever had a drunk driving arrest? And I was like, no. And it just went on for about 15 minutes, I want to say, being questioned. Wow. And guess which room I ended up in? I ended up in the room they hold you until they could make sure you're safe. And I'm sitting in this room. I know I'm okay. I know I haven't committed any crimes. And I'm looking around at people crying. You could tell who's innocent and who's guilty in that room. But I'm sitting there and I was like, holy crap, this is getting into Canada. And he's 100% right. Yeah, Canada has like serious things with Americans that you cannot get in if you have a.
I love this idea. I think all countries should have this. No country can get crime down to zero. That's impossible. It doesn't matter what we do, what policies we implement, it's not going to happen. But a country can choose not to import it, right? That's the difference. If you leave your front door unlocked and open, like wide open, and someone wanders in and robs you, that's on you. So the idea that all of these countries, especially America under Biden, were shocked that all these people that were just allowed to skate into the country and later, after this guy entered illegally in 2018, was then granted all sorts of licenses and was able to do whatever he wanted, basically. Why would anyone be shocked that this was coming? So I love that policy. I think that's fast. I didn't know it existed. That's
it's
really
it's one of Canada's good policies. I mean, and I was just sitting there, like, I got to tell you, I was comfortable. It was really weird watching people. You could just tell who's guilty. So I'm sure they were looking at the cameras in the room going, oh, he's innocent, guilty, maybe, and so on and so forth. But I want to bring up something. In President Trump's first go around, you obviously always had certain clouds over his head as far as everything. Every day we'd wake up, it would be a different story. You had reporters that literally broke Wall Street one day. That guy got fired from ABC due to false reporting. So now this time around, they're taking every policy that's successful. They're not just fighting it within the courts. They're doubling down on past policies that he ran on that simply did not work. So you got this Richie Rich jackass in Chicago, Pritzker, who's never really had to work a day in his life. The only work he's ever done is feeding himself. Okay, and lifting
he
himself
has
up.
Done an amazing job of that.
Yeah, and getting up from the table is a pull-up for him. I mean, truly. And now he's offering aid for all students, no matter what, in the state of Illinois. He's supposedly a presidential front runner. I don't see it in my wildest dreams go on. Now, if you are an inner city family that has sadly voted the wrong way for God knows how many years, this is just one of those things you look at it and you go, they're going against this common sense thing that's working. Trump's approval numbers are up. Everything is up. Every metric is up. What are you doing?
You know, are you asking what are the people doing? Or are you asking what are the people who are trying to fight against him doing?
No. What I'm asking is, if I see something working, I follow that, right? I grin and I bear, but I say, oh, wow, that's a policy that's working. I'll take that policy. I don't double down on stupid. It's like chasing good money after bad. That's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, but you are talking about someone who is deliberately operating under a partisan kind of hackery. He is, and let's use him as an example. There are many people who are doing this, but the idea that he is trying to discredit Trump is merely because that's how he sees his job. Right? He is not necessarily as concerned with governing as he is with undermining the current administration, which is a common problem. It used to be that if you were on one side of the aisle, but there was a common sense policy or law that was being passed or was attempted to be passed on the other side, you could say, you know what, I'm going to come over and I'm going to support that. It's going to be bipartisan. This almost doesn't exist at all anymore because on both sides of the aisle, by the way, everyone is more concerned with trying to cut the other guy's legs out from under him than to actually improve the lives of the citizens underneath them. And right now, because Trump is in power, all of the people on the other side of the aisle are focused, like laser pointed focused on trying to make him look bad, trying to undermine him, trying to make his policies look bad. What Men just pointed out a moment ago, Gavin Newsom pretending like the guy who just killed people doing an illegal U-turn, that illegal guy, came in under Trump. Didn't matter what the facts were. It didn't matter that he didn't even do his research. It didn't matter any of that. It just was, how can I get the soundbite that makes Trump look bad? So you're asking logically, why would these people do this? They should be saying, hey, we're on your side. Let's go. Like you mentioned, I think 2 days ago, that when Obama said, let's go kill some, Islamist bad guys, you were like, you know what? I'm in, despite the fact that Obama said it and I'm a Republican. Okay. They don't do that anymore. And so I think you're looking for logic in a place that it doesn't exist.
Just so you know, before I go to Men, I'm not looking for logic. Part of what I'm doing too is re-emphasizing, as I spoke to men last night on the phone, messaging men. And this is something that the White House should automatically pick up this type of story. They should automatically pick up that Gavin Newsom has a stupid account, that his only way of fighting back against Trump is making an account that I was unaware of where everything is posted in caps. They should be highlighting on a daily basis that there's still, most people haven't got permits to rebuild their homes. California's a disaster. Chicago's a disaster. And they're doubling down on stupidity and not going with common sense. That's what I'm trying to sort of say is the Republicans need to work on this messaging, man.
Messaging, yes, but I think what they're doing in Washington, D.C. by bringing in the National Guard is a prime example of what could be done. So you have a Democrat-run city that is the second or third most dangerous city in the nation. It happens to be the nation's capital. And Trump sending in the troops and cleaning that place up has caused, one, local residents are singing his praises. Primarily Black inner city people are all over social media right now, singing his praises, saying that they haven't seen it that clean and that safe in decades. And then you have people in other cities like Chicago asking Trump to send in the National Guard. So you're seeing failed policies getting fixed in real time by the president using the National Guard.
What you're talking about, Mend, is you're talking about how he's combating that stupidity, which is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But to Judah's question, I want your opinion on this, Mend. How is it possible that they're so deep in their partisan hackery that they cannot acknowledge when things are working? Whether it's the Abraham Accords, whether it's the NAFTA renegotiation, whether it's the First Step Act, or whatever it is, everything that he does, they have to undermine in some way, even if we know that they recognize that it is a successful policy. That's what I want to understand. How can a country run that way?
Yeah, well, that's where you see the difference between the phonies, the liars, and those that are actually there and care about the country. So take a guy like John Fetterman, Richie Torres. You have some Democrats that when Trump administration does things that are good for the country, they come out and they give him praise, even though he's on the opposing team. You know, he's a Republican, they're Democrats, but they are so few and far between. The mantra, the Democratic talking points, their mode of operating for the last, let's say, 4 years or 8 years since the beginning of Trump's first term was just to attack Trump no matter what. No matter how made up, it's blatantly obvious what's going on. Newsom coming out and just lying to the people about this guy's getting a driver's license and blaming it on Trump when he was the one, his administration is the one that gives out driver's license to illegal aliens. And then when it comes time to vote, they register you when you get your driver's license. So they have thousands of people that have been illegally registered to vote in California through this scheme of driver's license. So they're registered, then they don't have to show ID. All they have to do is check a box that says, yes, I'm a citizen. And they do it. They do it all over the place.
But if he had let these people in and had given them permission, had given them licenses, which is what the sanctuary cities want, they would ding him for that too. It's always moving the goalposts, as we talked about, right? So it's what we just had this conversation about. If he meets Putin on Russian soil, Trump has already lost. Then it's in Alaska, and they're like, that's real close to Russia, so that's also a loss. Like, they're always moving the goalposts, no matter what it is.
It's the dishonesty that is so glaring. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that.
Listen, I agree with you 100% that I think people are waking up to it. And I have zero issues with these idiot politicians like Pritzker and Newsom doubling down on stupidity. It's helpful for us, actually. But when it becomes dangerous is when American citizens are being killed by those said policies.
Well,
that's the danger.
Citizens have been being killed by the previous administration, the Democratic Party's policies for years.
And current.
But, you know, right now, thank God we locked down the border, but there's still a lot of bad people here and they're still committing a lot of crimes. So they got to clean that up. And you just look at some of these Democrat, like, let's look at Detroit. Detroit has been a Democrat-run cesspool for the last 30, 40 years, and it's not getting better. And it's funny because inner city Black people used to vote Republican because that was the party that represented their values. It was conservative, and they advocated for the abolishment of slavery. It was the Democrats that filibustered that stuff. Even the Civil Rights Act, they filibustered it. They did not want it to pass. I think it was something like 70 days or 60 days. They just kept it going without allowing it to be passed. Eventually, the Republicans got enough votes to do it. When did it flip? I think it flipped when FDR rolled out all of these social programs, which bought the vote. And then you saw a massive shift. And I think a lot of people are waking up, and I see these debates. There was a woke progressive Black woman on campus debating Black kids about the state of America and where we are and what's going on. And this one Black kid gets up there. He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "We elected Obama. Majority of white people had to vote for him. What are you saying, that the entire country is racist and all that?" And this kid just refuted. He was a kid going up against a grown adult, a woman. And she goes, "You talk to me like you're talking to your mama, respectful." Like, she kept on admonishing him, working on that power dynamic where she wanted him to submit to her. And he respectfully stood his ground. I mean, you see a lot of this going on. Charlie Kirk is doing this on campus all the time, but you're seeing it more and more with Black educated kids coming out and going against the grain and saying that is all bullshit. That's a grievance. It's the grievance Olympics. And this kid actually pointed out, he goes, you know, the Japanese that were here, that were interned, the Chinese that came here to build the railroads. I mean, these people had horrible starts in this country. Yet you don't see them asking for reparations. You don't see them with their hand out. You don't see them all on welfare. They've become some of the most prosperous people in the country. Why? It's because they're not in the grievance Olympics. They're not just saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. They're saying, let me do for my own family. I want to get the American dream. I want to pursue happiness and prosperity for my family. And I don't want to sit here and just be angry at people for things that I have no control over.
If you ever listen to Coleman Hughes, by the way,
Yeah, he's great.
We haven't mentioned his
fantastic.
name, but he is a fantastic, one of the sharpest young voices in American commentary, in my opinion. And he just joined the Free Press. but he's a brilliant guy, and he talks about this a lot. He touches on a lot of these ideas, the skepticism of reparations, the colorblind ideals. He's a critic of identity politics, all of that. And I think that we see over and over and over again these places like Detroit. I'm just going to use Detroit as the example because I think it's a great example. They just keep on voting
Well,
Democratic
St. Louis. I
regardless.
mean, you could use St. Louis,
But isn't
Oakland.
isn't there an insanity as the city faces decades and decades of economic and social decline? They just keep going down the party line. It's like loyalty over outcomes.
No, it's been listen, we got to be honest, and we discuss this a lot on the World According to Ben Stein. It's been engineered racism. Let's just call it that. The Democrat Party literally engineered and rigged a generation of generations at this point of the fall of the Black community. But I want to move on to this because last night in Washington, D.C., they arrested 52 arrests. Okay, 52 arrests. So the total right now, I believe, is 438 arrests that they've made. And something people often forget to talk about is one of the biggest things they got rid of in New York, which was a huge deterrent, was stop and frisk when they made that illegal. And the reality is, I heard go on years ago, I'm sure other people have said this, but I heard a guy in a 12-step thing say, if it's after 11 o'clock at night and it sounds like a good idea, don't do it. Okay. And it's
Very good
after,
advice.
it was great advice. And a guy named Chris Campbell, great advice. And listen, if you're on the streets and it's 11 o'clock at night, and at a certain point, I got to say that you're a prime candidate to get picked up by the Metro Police now or the National Guard in Washington. So have at it.
Look, we've talked about the broken windows policies. We've talked about a little bit about stop and frisk, but this is something that absolutely makes sense. And when you're looking at a place like DC that has had this astronomical rise in crime, and the statistics really are, when you're looking at this, the chart, it goes off the page at a certain point. The idea that so far, I think that, what did you say, 400 and what? How many arrests so far?
About 450.
450, 460 arrests so far. This is something, the federal crackdown began in this month, earlier this month in August. So we're talking about like 70 firearms that have been seized. We're talking about gang members like the MS-13 affiliates that have been arrested. When we see people that are clearly doing things that are shady, we have not just the right, but the obligation to say maybe there's something more here. That doesn't mean everybody is going to fall into the same dragnet. That doesn't mean everybody is going to be guilty. Because, of course, you can look at all the statistics. There's a mixed effectiveness over the years, but ultimately, it is more successful than not. Because if you're looking at someone who is committing a crime, even if it's a small crime, it means there is at least a likelihood that they will commit a greater crime as well.
Well said. And man, I'll just bring up Pam Bondi's quote. Since our mission began, there have been a total of 465 arrests, 68 gun seized, and charges of homicide, narcotics, and firearm offenses. Nearly half of these arrests occurred in high crime areas of D.C. Residents and tourists alike appreciate the extraordinary effort by D.C. and federal law enforcement partners to make D.C. safe again.
So a couple of things. One is the problem is not really arresting people. It's always been the judicial system where prosecutors just refuse to press charges and let these violent criminals back out on the streets. So I don't know how they're addressing that. I haven't looked into that, but I hope that is something that they're addressing. Otherwise, the whole thing is just performative. The idea of cleaning up a city and getting rid of the graffiti, if it looks lawless, it's going to be lawless. So, part of the cleanup of New York was that, the broken windows thing. We're like, if there's any infraction, if someone's driving around with a broken taillight or their high beams on, you pull them over and then you just find out what else they got going on there. It's a great policy and it actually works. Just enforcing your laws and making sure that the citizens adhere to the laws is the only way to run a safe city. It's that simple. We're not talking about harassing people, and we're not talking about profiling or any of that stuff. It's basically anytime you see a broken window, you go and you investigate and you find out what's going on there.
And it doesn't mean that they're going to be a specific race or a specific religion or a specific anything. It is a broken window or a crime being committed by anybody.
Yeah.
So the idea that people are going to call racism on this is actually them kind of being racist, with the assumption that every time there's a law broken or a broken window, there's someone of a specific race that's going to fall under that category. That's on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot deeper stuff going on here, but if you just look at the crime statistics, the most dangerous ethnic group to a young black male in this country is a young black male. So if I was the parent of a young black male, I would want more policing. I would want to keep my kids safe. That shouldn't be controversial. 50% of murders are committed by young black males, and they make up 15% of the population. Those are statistics. That's just fact. How we got there, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about there, but the lack of fathers in the homes is a big one. And the Democrat Party are the ones that push that. I mean, a family unit in the black community was way higher before they, got involved. It's almost like the same thing like student loans. Before the government got involved, the student debt wasn't out of control the way it is now. Government gets involved, and then student debt goes out of control. And I should say Democrats. It's in both cases, it's been the Democrats who did it. Or these are not Republican policies that caused it.
And half of the arrests that are going on right now are going in DC are happening in wards 7 and 8. Okay, and just to be clear what that is, to Men's point, you're talking about places like Deanwood and Benning and Hillcrest and Congress Heights and Bellevue, and they are majority black neighborhoods. There are a lot of black working class people there, but they also have some of the highest poverty rates, highest unemployment rates, highest violent crime rates, highest homicide rates of the area, and there's a reason why that a lot of the arrests are happening there. It's not because they're targeting a certain demographic, and it's not because they're targeting a certain race. It's because that's where the crimes are being committed. And when we watch what's going on with the people who are trying to kind of bring up grassroots kind of deep community pride and churches and trying to bring that back now, which is happening in those wards as well, it's this fledgling group. And amongst those communities, the crime falls because we're watching people come together. We're watching them clean up. One of the things that Men said that I think is brilliant is when you can see that your space looks like a post-apocalyptic war zone, then it makes it much easier to say, you know what, I'll commit a crime too. In my neighborhood, I live in a nice neighborhood of Barcelona where I don't have a lot of trouble. But at one point, clearly some roving gangs were coming through and putting up pro-Hamas stickers everywhere and pro-Hamas spray paint everywhere. And at first I was like, I'm just going to ignore it. This is getting me mad, but I'm just going to ignore it. And because it was up, more people showed up and did more and more, until one day I have a kit. I could show it to you right now. It has different color spray paints. It has a scraper. It has all sorts of stuff. I carry it with me literally in my backpack at all times right here.
So are you
For those
single-handedly
of you who
cleaning
are
up
on video,
Barcelona?
spray paint, scrapers. I've got 3 different knives in here, and I'll go around the neighborhood. And now at night, before I go to sleep, I go around, I do an hour where I take down all the stickers, then I cover up all the spray paint. And guess what happened after a couple of weeks? They stopped doing it because it just feels futile to them. So I love the idea of these communities that are saying no more, despite the fact that we have this high crime rate. We're going to work hard to bring our cultural history and this activism from a grassroots perspective and improve our station in life. And you see the results.
I love it, and I love like you are the anti-Bansky. Go
Banksy,
on.
anti-Banksy.
Who the hell cares how you say his name? But we talk about the broken windows thing, and I just want to explain really where this came from because it's important. It was first tested out by Philip Zimbardo in 1969, who's very famous for the Stanford prison experiment. But he put a car in the Bronx and he put a car in Santa Clarita, California. Nothing, no ID, no plates, no nothing. And in the Bronx, the first 15 minutes, a black family stole the radiator. Now, within an hour or whatever, the car was pretty much gone. It was stripped. In Santa Clarita, it stood for days until somebody actually broke the back window. That's where the broken windows things comes from, where all it took for the thing in Santa Clarita was for that window to be crushed, and that's when the crime on the car started. So just because we talk about it, I think it's important for people to know where these things come from. I want to move on to something that we're witnessing going on with these foreign leaders and with Australia. And Australia's got a huge problem going on, not just with anti-Semitism. They have a huge problem with everything, but anti-Semitism being number one on the list. And they denied entry to somebody we're familiar with, Hillel Fold, because of his views. And now they've denied entry to an Israeli cabinet official. So Israel basically yanked Australia's consulate, in a sense, and said, get the hell out. And this is a big story. This is like, again, we brought up yesterday these European leaders tagging along for relevance. I don't think there's anything more to this than them being a hostage to the Muslims in their own country, but also like just holding on to something they feel is power. And that power always comes down to anti-Semitism. It's always something it comes down to. It's nonstop.
It's the easiest, and there's a reason why they call it the oldest hate, and it is one of the easiest hates because it is such a minority. Jews are such a minority of this planet. I love whenever anyone tries to tell me about the big bad of Israel doing whatever they're doing. And I'm like, all right, so Jews make up 0.2, not 2%, 0.2% of the world's population. Half of those Jews are in Israel. That's 0.1% of the world's population. Their sworn enemy, not on Israel's side, but on the other side, are the Muslims, who make up 2 billion people, which is 26% of the world's population. And we're still led to believe that this is the big bad on this side. And I love when people are like, no, we're just talking about the Palestinians. They're such a small group, and that's the difference. And I said, but that's like saying I go into a bar and I'm just one guy and I want to start a fight. And so I'm just one guy. But what you don't know is I've got 25 guys in the truck waiting to back me up. So I look like I'm a lone fighter, but I'm really not. And that's why it's so easy to beat up on Jews. It's so easy to do it on social media, because even if every Jew simultaneously fights back,
It's actually a great point.
15 million people, and then 2 billion plus all the idiots that hate the Jews.
I think the point you just brought up is absolutely brilliant, man. And that's another thing, and not enough people are bringing up is when you go by that, what Golan just really an astute and brilliant point, Golan. Man, it's like, yes, you're tagging up and teaming up on people that even if they collectively got together would get 15 million likes. If we all decided to like the same post, max we'd get 15 million likes.
Yeah, it's really shameful what's going on in some of these Western countries. I was just looking for it. I put out a tweet which basically said something like Australia, New Zealand, all these countries that are signing on to declare a Palestinian state. And it was basically an apology to Taiwan. Sorry, Taiwan. You basically did not go out and rape and murder anyone. Therefore, you're not getting recognized.
That's what we said on the show yesterday. All my Catalonian friends here in Spain, time to start beheading people and raping everybody, because then Spain will recognize you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Not that we're calling for beheading and stuff like that.
No, I would never want that. I'm just saying, notice it, guys.
Yeah.
We would never call for that.
That is the global message. That's where that's where the elite West is these
Turtle
days.
Island is waiting, guys. I mean, I wouldn't want that, of course, but I guess that's how we get back.
It's really important to point out that there never was a Palestinian state. Palestine was a name given to the land by the Romans after they conquered it. It was Judea and Samaria. It's Israel. It's been the land of Israel for all eternity. It's all time. So these people claiming, and I love the maps that they show, they're like, oh, in 1948, this was Palestine. No. In 1948, Israel and Transjordan was considered the Palestine mandate of, the British Empire, but it was a name given to the land of Israel by the Romans when they conquered it. It's not like it was a country, Palestine. These people weren't Palestinians. They were Arabs. And in 1967, they went to sleep as Jordanians, and Jordan attacked Israel, and Israel won land and got the West Bank, which is Judea and Samaria. They conquered that. And Jordan promptly revoked all their passports, revoked the passports of their own citizens that were stuck behind enemy lines on a war that they started. And then They
Because
invented
they
this
were
thing called Palestinians.
tools. That's why, because that way they can be used as tools. If you develop an identity, which was developed in 1967, as we've talked about, you can go to my other podcast, Jew Can't Handle the Truth, and look at the episode called The Myth of the Palestinians, where I break down how in the past, all of those people that today call themselves Palestinians literally turned their nose up at being called that because that was a Jew thing. Okay, we were Southern Syrians, we were. In fact, when they asked the leaders of the Arab population in Gaza and elsewhere, what do you think of this Palestinian thing? They were like, it's a made up identity used just to screw over the Jews. We don't actually believe any of that nonsense. And now it has become their identity as if it's been there for hundreds of years. So, yes, they are just tools because when you develop an identity, when you don't actually have a home, and the whole purpose of your existence is to be an eternal refugee, which the UN has facilitated, then there's no way to win. All you can do is continue to fight and fight and fight and hold on to your keys and never establish a life, which is what every other refugee in the world is designed by the people who are meant to help them to eventually get to.
Yeah, it's worth noting what Golan just said there is that for all other refugees in the entire world, the way it works is the UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Program. There's one program for the entire world, and then there's another refugee program only for the so-called Palestinians. Now, for the rest of the world, the way it works is if you're a refugee from Ukraine and you resettle in Poland, they help you get set up. And once you get housing and citizenship or whatever, which is the path, what they try to do for you, you're no longer a refugee. You're settled. And that's the job of that UN agency.
There are three things, right? It's resettled, repatriated, or integrated. One of those three things happen, you are removed as a refugee, because why would you need to be one?
Right. And for the Palestinians, what they do is they say, you are eternally a refugee. You came to America, you got citizenship like Bella and Gigi Hadid did. They're still refugees. They're living in Beverly Hills, but somehow they're refugees from Gaza. So this one agency perpetuates this thing. And the only reason that the Arabs invented the Palestinian identity was because they couldn't crush Israel with a war.
And
So
the
what they said
Russians,
was,
Arabs and the Russians
the Arabs and the
invented that.
Russians invented this thing was because they couldn't crush Israel by war, which they tried many times. They lost every single time. So then they tried this new plan, which was the sympathy route. They're going to say, we are eternal refugees. We need a special agency that ensures that we're refugees forever. You have displaced people from the 1948 war when Israel became a state that they moved to Syria, to Lebanon, to Jordan, to Egypt. None of those countries integrated them. None of them gave them citizenship. To this day, you can't be a doctor, say, in Syria or a landowner in Lebanon, like if you're one of these refugees. So they perpetuated this thing. They kept them in tents for 70 years. They're in these camps. And the plan is that one day they're going to try to flood them back into Israel and say, we have the right of return, even though most of them left voluntarily, hoping that they would come back after all the Jews were slaughtered and they would take everything, and they lost.
By the way, UNRWA is the same group that makes all the textbooks and teaches all the stuff to the young quote unquote Palestinians, teaching them to kill their neighbors, teaching them to be martyrs. And so imagine if the UNHCR, the other organization for refugees, ran classrooms in Sudan telling kids to go kill their neighbors, there'd be international outrage.
Of course.
By the way, I love that they're complaining that they're not getting enough credit right now for food distribution from Koga. I want to move on though to two quick things. You can't make this crap up, but Trump came out right away and said today there's no American troops on the ground. We are not putting American troops on the ground in the Ukraine or anywhere. And I think it's really important that he noted that because Golan, he said some statements yesterday that, were vague. I don't think anybody in their right mind thought he would ever put troops on the ground in the Ukraine or anywhere in that vicinity. But, I've been thinking a lot about, as we call them, the short bus of Euro leaders that showed up. And the more I think about it was incredible watching his dominance. And that's what that was. When they decided to tag along, he showed them the picture from Butler of the fight, 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 and saying, I'm the big stick. We're the big stick. We've taken it back. We're not abdicating anything. We're the world leaders. You listen to us. End of story. And to anybody to knock what Trump is doing, again, you have to be out of your damn mind. I don't care if you're a former general, you're a former this, you're a pundit on Fox News or CNN or any news station, you're a jackass if you can't see the vision that Trump has.
Well, look, not only was he very, very clear about this, he said, we're not getting any more endless wars. And he is doing his best to implement into law that at least when it comes to these conflicts, after he's out of office, it will still not happen. He is trying to make sure that we hear the message. Our sons and daughters aren't dying for European wars anymore. And whether it's Europe's wars or anybody else's wars, the idea, despite every woke right podcaster telling me otherwise, there has never been American boots on the ground in Israel's wars. They keep saying, oh, we're going to go send troops over to Israel like we always do and send money over to Israel like we always do. It is an absolute misframing of reality. Israel hasn't asked us for troops. Ukraine seems to be asking everyone for everything, which again, we are for Ukraine being protected. We are anti-Russian aggression when it comes to this war. I don't want to make it sound like otherwise, but the fact that, as Ben pointed out yesterday, France is considering throwing boots on the ground right now, and the UK is like, as soon as an agreement is signed, we're going to throw boots on the ground too. And Trump is like, hey, Europe, do your thing, and we will help you from back here. We will even help you maybe with air superiority if necessary, but there's not going to be a single troop with boots on the ground in any of these wars. As often as Biden dragged us to the brink, endless talk of escalation, no off-ramps, Kamala talking about NATO expansion and troops and this and that. Trump coming in and saying, not on my watch, is important, and it also is backing up what he has always said, peace through strength.
Absolutely. You hear all these idiots talking about, like Candace Owens, oh, you got to go sign up and die for Israel. It's like the Democrats talking. They just make shit up. It's just completely made up nonsense. None of that stuff is happening. Nobody's asking for boots on the ground to defend Israel. They are very capable of doing it themselves. I hope that Trump just sells them the B-2 bombers and then they could really just handle everything on their own, selling it to them, not giving it to them. And I also think we should stop all foreign aid and let them sell us their technology. They would make more money if they were selling us technology than if they were getting some aid and exchanging it with us. Although it would be better for us if we just get that technology for free in exchange for some foreign aid. But the optics of it and these ridiculous talking
But
heads,
it takes away one of the tropes.
it just eliminates
But
it.
it is actually better for America because the jobs program that America has created by giving money to Israel so they can pay for these things, and they do it in exchange for technology and breakthroughs and surveillance and everything else, actually is better for America. But hey, if y'all want to accuse us of stealing the troops and stealing the money and all the rest, okay, we'll do it. That's going to be better for Israel. That's fine.
And also I think it's important to note, because people are not really familiar with this, but Israel created the Iron Dome. Okay. So they've given this technology to the Ukrainians. Obviously, if we want it here, it's for sale. And,
we're doing it. We're doing the Golden Dome. We're going to be implementing a shield. We need it
based on Israeli technology.
Based on Israeli technology. It's worth noting that I think it was yesterday, a top Iranian government official said that they are developing more missiles and they hope to be able to hit Washington.
Yeah, it's exactly what Washington and Canada, I believe. I believe they said Washington and Canada. I don't know why they threw Canada in. I'm sort of okay with the Canadian.
It's unfair. They should not be lumping Canada in.
I'm okay with the Canadian part. But
if they hit Canada, they're going to kill so many more Muslims. It's just not normal.
Can I point out, just before we move on from it, the Iron Dome is one of the most amazing marvels of technology that has ever existed. And also how quickly it was dreamed up and operational is unheard of when it comes to defense tech. It was thought of by a woman in 2005 who said, what if we did this thing? And it was like pie in the sky ideas. Now, I was in the Israeli army, and Yitzhak Rabin, before he was assassinated, came and spoke to my unit. And he said, I want you to give me 2 solutions for this problem that we have of the Palestinian Arabs trying to kill us all the time. He said, I want one solution that is realistic and one that is pie in the sky, whatever you want it to be, make it magic. And every person, one at a time, went around the room and did this. This is a regular thing. It generates imagination. And one woman said, what if we shot the missile out of the sky like a bullet hitting another bullet? And by the way, when it was brought to the Americans, the U.S. defense planners said, this is doomed to fail. It's impossible. It'll never work. They weren't just skeptical. They said, nah, let's not do this thing. 6 years later, 2011, it was already operational and it has a 90% success rate. So it is truly one of the miracles of technology.
You talk about something like that, and people often forget the Entebbe mission, right? Which was the same thing. They said to the generals, or not even the generals, they said to the soldiers, like, give us your ideas. And and you're not talking about 6 years they had a matter of 3 or 4 days.
Correct.
Max to come up with a solution to fly 3,000 miles and figure out a way. And they did. And I want to move on to just one last thing, or maybe two last things, but one last thing quickly. There's this thing going on online right now. There was an Israeli that was in Vegas that he works for the government of Israel. He was at supposedly, I guess, a black hat convention. He's a cybersecurity guy. And he was arrested for solicitation.
He got stuck. He caught up in a sting.
In a sting with child porn. And now there's with not child porn, but trying to get.
It's either trying to get a child or a mentally retarded person, mentally disabled person to show up for sex. So one of those things.
The thing that's going on online is that the U.S. The U.S. government, the United States government, released him to Israel, and we have court records right now that go on show this completely untrue. It happened in Nevada, so it was a state, and they released him on bond. Yes, he did go back to Israel. Israel will extradite him. Israel has no problem extraditing criminals, especially the sexual predator type. So again, you have this other thing. Forget about the 8 other people arrested who we have no idea who they are. It was the one guy, the Israeli guy, that Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody else is focusing on. That of course nobody's ever going to say there aren't Israeli pedophiles. There aren't, Israel is no different than America
right.
in human behavior in many ways, as every other country.
By the way, it's important to note that whether you believe or don't believe, let's at least explain what the Israeli government said. Netanyahu's government said there's no conspiracy theory here. He was questioned. He was let go and he flew back as scheduled. There was no secret extraction. There was no Mossad vanishing act, just normal procedure. So they did say that. And just like we saw after the release of some of the JFK assassination files, where they were like, we're going to list 27 countries that had some potential hand in this. Israel's amongst them. All anyone wants to talk about is, did you guys see Israel? Must have been Mossad. Mossad killed JFK. And they ignore everything else on the list. It's just like what happened when it was going in and taking out Saddam Hussein. Every country in the world was like, this is a good idea. But Israel was amongst them. And everyone was like, Israel made America go do this thing. This is the same thing. They're just highlighting whatever they can to try to make it a thing about the Jews.
So let's be clear. If this guy is a child predator, lock him up. Lock him up, throw away the key for sure. I don't see anyone from the Israeli government coming out in his defense. It looks like he went through the system. Someone put up bail for him and he flew back to his country. I don't know how standard it is for them to allow someone like that to have their passport and leave the country. I think they probably should have held him here, but we don't know. And we need the justice system to work its course, and the Israelis will have to turn this guy over. There is a history of people fleeing to Israel when they're caught up in child sex allegations. There was a famous story of a woman from, I think, Australia or New Zealand, a religious woman who was abusing little girls. And it took a while for her to go through the Israeli court system. And eventually they extradited her back to Australia or New Zealand, whichever one of those two countries. I think her name was Leifer, and she faced justice.
Malka Leifer. Yeah.
Malka Leifer. So it's not like it's a haven for predators the way these people are trying to paint it out. The Candace Owens of the world.
There's no cabal. There's no secret cabal going on. Listen, Israel has extradited Eddie Antar. For people not familiar with Eddie Antar, that was Crazy Eddie. His prices were insane. Listen, I know the family, and I like the family, and they've suffered a lot.
I was a chaplain at that prison, I think he
Really?
was at he was at Otisville in upstate New York, and I used to go visit the prison in my duties as a chaplain.
The family is a good family, and the brother is Sam Antar that brought the Letitia James thing, her mortgage stuff to the forefront. They're a good family and they've lost a lot, but he did his time. And then not forget, Meyer Lansky got deported. A person that actually helped the survival of Israel got deported because
That's
he
right.
ran guns to Israel. So,
But also the number, I mean, man, you said there is a history of it. Okay, there's a history of it with all countries.
Yes.
Again, the idea of highlighting Israel, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I know you were trying to inform our listeners, but it's important for them to hear that the accused sex offenders who fled Israel is tiny compared to the overall immigration pool. We're talking about dozens of fugitives, not thousands. It's not a real problem. It's not an epidemic. It's something that has happened here and there because there is a home country for them to go back to. The media angle of making every case a headline because they want to vilify Israel is a big problem.
well, it's anti Semitic. Let's just,
Of
yeah.
course, but that's what I'm saying. When they flee to South America, when they flee to Eastern Europe, when they flee to Asia, which happens in the same numbers, if not more numbers, it doesn't make the global news. Somebody even hears about it.
And
It's
we're
absolutely because of
just a
anti-Semitism.
point of fact, man, quickly, is that France actually does not extradite for sexual crimes, hence Roman Polanski. Israel would have no problem sending this black hatter back to, and I'm not referring to the ultra Orthodox community in Israel, they would have no problem sending him back to America to be
Ireland, Brazil, Argentina, a bunch of countries have that right of return with generous asylum laws. So to pinpoint Israel is just another example of double standards.
Absolutely. And the reason that I mentioned that there are or were other cases is because we're adhere to truth. And that is truth. It's not that Israel protects them. It's not that, it's a sanctuary for pedophiles. But there have been cases where people with those types of track records, like Malka Leifer, have fled to Israel and got extradited back to the country where the crimes were committed.
Well said. And I just want to, almost the last thing, Harmeet Dillon, because we've brought this up. Harmeet Dillon, who's running the civil rights division, I guess, of the DOJ right now, said that 75% of Biden's DOJ civil rights division left. So they're now hiring and looking for real law enforcement. This is something we brought up last week. It's going to take a lot of people. Men's neighbor has decided to go to work, but it's going to take a lot of lawyers to sacrifice. And I was talking about this with Ben Stein the other night. It's like Trump has paved the way for people to sacrifice everything for the good of the country. I don't think there's ever been a person that has sacrificed as much as Trump for the life of public service. And I would pray that this would be a contagious type of thing. I mean, yeah, man.
The team that this administration put together is incredible. The Doge team, it's worth noting, a lot of the guys on the Doge team and a lot of people in the administration in general are former Democrats or still current Democrats. Some of the guys on the Doge are still Democrats, but they saw that they could come in and really help the country in a big way using their advanced knowledge of technology and better ways to do these systems. So it's fantastic. Yes, a lot of people from the Biden's DOJ have left. Good riddance. They were doing nothing anyway. These were just, pencil pushers that were collecting a paycheck. We don't need that. So I'm really proud of the people that have stepped up because you have a lot of people with a lot to lose that have stepped up and they're serving this country and they're doing a fantastic job. I mean, you look at the trade tariffs and the peace deals that are going on and the amount of money that companies are now pledging to invest in America, with Apple leading the charge with billions of dollars, the AI boom with SoftBank committing, I think it was $200 billion.
A lot of money.
Insane amounts of money. It's great. So that is all fantastic. This is a winning team and they're not slowing down, which is great. There's so much going on. I mean, every day there's something else. Like you talk about the National Guard taking over Washington, D.C., but your head's still spinning from the trade tariffs and from the peace negotiations going on with Zelensky and the Israeli thing where we took out Iran. Like, it's just one thing after another. It's amazing what's being accomplished. So Godspeed to them.
Yeah, and go on one of the things, like it all depends on when we record the show. We can't chase the stories. There's always, like I've said, there's always going to be a next story that we see that we want to say, oh my God, let's re-record. It's just an impossibility. There's
That's fine. There's always tomorrow.
Right, unless Caroline Levitt took my idea and decided to do the White House press briefings at 8 o'clock at night, then we could do a show at 9, having sealed up the day's events. But that's just not.
One of the
That's
most
just.
brilliant ideas anyone has ever had ever.
Did you guys
Thank you.
see? Did you guys see that RFK and
And Pete
Hegseth?
Hegseth doing the pull-ups.
Yeah, they had a workout challenge. I mean, all right. So not just that they kicked ass. I mean, both of them were just crushing it in this challenge. But the guy's 71 years old. 71 years old. If there's anyone out there that is not currently working out, look at RFK and look at the average 71-year-old and look at this guy. And if you want to be active and healthy into your later years, it's not about a long life. It's quality of life, as Dr. Peter Attia keeps on saying. How do you extend the longevity of the quality of your life, not just, the length of your life?
We talk
So
about
it's,
that a lot here. We walk around in Spain where they have an incredibly long lifespan, except everybody looks decrepit. They're all eating, dried meat, processed meats, and smoking cigarettes and drinking vermouth all the time, and always out in the sun and never any sunscreen. And we're like, how are these people having long life? And yesterday, my wife turns to me and goes, "I figured it out. Their life is long. Their quality of life is trash."
yep.
Yeah,
Yep. So
and I just want to say that there's no better mentor for a person like Pete Hegseth than RFK Jr. Not, I can't think when I watched that, the image of knowing that RFK is sober, isn't a person that has worked on himself as much as RFK Jr. has, and this isn't like sixth-hand knowledge. Go on the amount of people that he has helped in the sober world is a lot. This guy doesn't just walk the walk. He talk the talk. He walks the walk. RFK Jr. is a real solid citizen. And I've heard this from a lot of people, not in the Beltway. I've heard this from people that I know personally.
Real people.
Real people, the real people. And again, going back to Men's point about this team that Trump has put together, they all complement each other. They literally complement each other, and they also figuratively complement each other. It's sort of an amazing thing to watch.
did you
And
guys catch Chris Pratt on Bill Maher?
no,
So Chris Pratt went on Bill Maher,
you
and
mean on Club Random?
I don't know, whatever. I just saw a little clip of it. I didn't watch the whole show. I don't even know what show it is. But I loved one thing he talked about, and he goes, RFK is removing a lot of poisons from our kids' diets. They're getting rid of all the artificial dyes and all the crap that we have in our food that the Europeans don't allow in their food. How can you not see the good in that? That was the whole statement. It's like, forget about all of your identity politics and all the shit that you're talking about, like what team you're on. Forget about all of that. As a parent, there's a guy now running this agency that is removing poisons from our food, which is going to be great for our children. How do you not support that?
Well, again,
I
it
loved
goes
it.
back, but it goes back to what we brought up is you're watching all of these things. And yes, it becomes contagious when other Black communities want the National Guard being brought into their areas. So if people keep on wanting to double down on stupid and double down on idiocy, have at it. Yeah, it's a danger to the places they run. And I feel terrible for the people that are stuck in those places with people they voted for. But hopefully that'll change. Go on. The last thing I want to bring up, Men brought this up last night. It's the right that ends wars. And, he was referring to Israel. But when you look at America, too, it's Nixon that got us out of Vietnam, didn't get us in. That was Kennedy. It's Reagan that ended the Cold War. Clinton screwed up with the Oslo Accords. And now it's Trump getting us all these peace deals. It's the right that is for peace. And when he said that, I was like, holy crap, he's 100% right.
I think that this is true. We're watching it. What did we say? Trump has so far stopped 6 conflicts or wars or whatever you want to call them in the short amount of time that he has been in office this time around. And throughout history, this has been true. Eisenhower in Korea, Nixon in Vietnam, as you said, Reagan, without firing a shot, ended the Cold War, which is one of the most amazing things if you really think about it. Now, it's one of those things we brush under the rug. It seems easy, right? Let's go to Berlin and we'll look at this little chunk of the Berlin Wall, no big deal. But this was a major endeavor And all it was diplomacy, sitting down and figuring out peace through strength. It's the same thing that Trump is doing today. And right now, just use one microcosm. Look at Iran. Biden's weaknesses in Iran gave us hostages and rockets and chaos. Trump comes back in, puts maximum pressure on Tehran, no false promises in this case, as we keep talking about, and takes care of business in a way that changes the game.
Yeah, but you don't even have to go that far back. It was Carter that got us into the Iran hostage, right? That was under him. Reagan got our hostages out immediately after he got in. There are countless cases. I mean, there are countless cases with Reagan not having to do much to get peace. There are countless cases of Trump not having to do much to get peace. Never gets credit. It would almost be like better if there was a war that came, but it's such twisted thinking that they have go on, that they can't accept that there's peace without bullets being fired. And these are the peacemakers. Republicans are the peacemakers.
It's weird for a lot of people to think that, but it's actually true. And those of you who right now are being skeptical and thinking, but that doesn't match the ideology that I have, that doesn't match the propaganda that I've been taught, that doesn't match what I read in my history books, who knows who wrote them. Think about actual reality and go through and look at who got us into wars, whether that was Wilson taking us into World War I, whether that was FDR into World War II, although unavoidable, obviously, whether that was Truman into Korea. Like you can see throughout history that this has happened over and over again. If you look at it pragmatically, you cannot deny reality.
I mean, listen, we'll end it with this. Look no further than with Kennedy, right? If he doesn't get assassinated, it's his blame. I mean, they get us into messes. Republicans have to clean it up, and they've done a remarkable job, some of them, in cleaning them up. And the ones I named, those are the ones. Okay.
Say, but yes, you're right. There have been some missteps on the Republican side, especially George Bush with the going into Iraq. But I love what Trump is doing and the way he's doing it. So Bush sent boots and 10 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. Trump spent 20 minutes in Iran.
No, listen, you're 100% right. I brought up the people that gave us that brought the peace, that not those that necessarily went chaotically. And as much as I always want to blame Bush for many things, which we can, let's never forget that it was Jimmy Carter letting the Shah being taken down in Iran that has caused 46 years of catastrophic events.
100% super important for everyone to know.
That is the impetus for all. Okay, on that note, I want to thank everybody that's been downloading the show on Apple, on Spotify. Don't forget to give us those 5 stars. Go to Substack, The Daily Cheat Sheet, YouTube, The Daily Cheat Sheet. Now on Rumble, thanks to Golan at The Daily Cheat Sheet. Instagram, The Daily Cheat Sheet. Mend, I keep on waiting to see your beautiful face on Instagram. And on X, you can find us at TD Cheat Sheet. Truth, Daily Cheat Sheet, or Golan, Judah Friedman. You can find us all there. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.